Right. Welcome, Karen. Delighted to be interviewing you today and share your insights all around the world of book writing and all the changes, and especially in the current climate. Certainly from my perspective, I can't think of a better time, not least to as a positive distraction from all the negativity and panic and all these other emotions that are going on at the moment. But also, I know in the UK it's spring. Obviously, other parts of the world it's different, but it is the time of change. And I always think it's a good time to be able to think more creatively. So anyway, I hand over to you to do a brief intro, and then we'll sort of see where this evolves.
Brilliant, thank you, Steve. Well, I've known you for many years. I know I helped you with one of the books along the journey, and we've known each other for donkey's years now, I think. For those of you who don't know me, I am the book mentor, Karen Williams, the book mentor, and I work with business owners who want to write a book that helps them to build their authority, for them to stand out, and also to make a bigger difference in the world. Steve, I'm not sure how long we've known each other, but I don't know if you probably knew me back in the day when I wrote my first book, which was 2009, published it in 2011. And then last year I wrote my sixth book. So yeah, I've been doing the book mentoring for 6 years now. And for me, I work with coaches, consultants, therapists who just want to get their wisdom out of their head or share their story and get it out into the world in the best possible way.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, I think you're right. I was thinking this as well. And I remember coming to one of your first book launches because you finished your first book just ahead of when I finished mine.
Yeah.
And I think we actually met on an NLP training course.
Of course, yes. That was a long time ago. Well, my NLP was the reason why I wrote my first book, because I was doing my NLP masters when I had to do a modelling project, and I decided to model the mindset behind a successful coaching business. And then I realised I had so much great information that I had to write a book about it. And then, you know, the rest is history, as they say.
Well, I think that's a fabulous intro, Karen, into why now is the best time than ever to consider writing your book.
Yeah, well, I think one of the things I want to mention is that things have changed hugely in the last 10 years. I've started writing my first book in 2009, published it in 2011. So we're 9 years on from when I published it, and things have changed a lot. Back then, not many people were writing books, as you know, you can probably allude to, Steve. But now I think it's become the in thing to do. But certainly bearing in mind, you know, coronavirus, COVID-19, why write a book now is because things are changing. You know, we do need to stand out from the crowd. You know, if our business is going to thrive, or even if you're an employee and you're looking to move out of employment and actually run a business, you know, a book is a brilliant way to stand out when you do it in the right way. It helps you to become an authority, it helps you to build your credibility, and it helps you to really showcase what makes you different. So that's one of the main reasons. There's loads of reasons why now is a good time. But that's pretty much my starting point, is why I do believe it's a good time to write a book.
And with the best will in the world, of course, Karen, either out of choice or enforced,
yeah,
a huge percentage of the population, regardless of where they are in the world, will have far more time on their hands than they ever anticipated.
Yeah, I'm finding with many of my clients, you know, some are having to react to the situation, and those who've got staff have had to furlough staff and maybe even make staff redundant. But actually, for many of my clients, I was talking to one this morning, you know, she has effectively got more time to write now because she can't go out. We're not being distracted by networking events, you know, and we do have that time. And especially if we can't work or are not working or don't have so many clients or have had work cancelled, as much as that feels, you know, really tough right now. And before we press record, Steve and I were talking about, you know, the current situation and the how surreal it is. But actually, in reality, this situation is not going to go away in a hurry. It's not something that's going to change next week. That for most of us, we do have more time to focus on things like a book. And, you know, wouldn't it be great to have a book in your hand, you know, in the autumn or even late summer, because you've spent that time now writing it rather than thinking about it and then not doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. So what would your advice be to aspiring authors? Maybe, I mean, I'm sure you come across this all the time, Karen, the classic business owner who basically has had the seed of a germ at the back of their mind for many, many years, you know, as I did myself, and you obviously did.
Yeah.
But what's the best methodology to get that out in these current times with all this other noise going on?
Well, I'm going to give it a plug, but I'd say the first thing to do is we've got a Get Started workbook on the website at librotas.com, which is librotas.com, or if you search for Karen Williams, the book mentor, you'll find me. And that is a really great tool, and it's a free tool for people to download. And there's 21 questions to ask yourself before you get started. And that's what I find with many people is they struggle to get started. You know, what do I do first? What do I do second? And that helps you to get some of the ideas out of your mind and actually down onto paper. From a business building book, there's kind of thinking about the who, the what, the where, the when, the how. All of that is important. You know, what are you writing about? Who's it for? What do they want to hear from you? And for me, I think the thing about writing a book now is I think we need to do it differently. For those people out there watching this interview thinking, you know, I don't know where the next client's coming from, I'm not sure how I'm going to pay the bills. One of the things that I'm very much talking about at the moment is how to self-fund the book. So to get clients, to raise your credibility, to get work off the back of the book before you've published it. You know, this isn't a time to squirrel yourself away unless you can afford to do so, because you could get it done quickly if you do it that way. Now's the time to actually look at how you can sort of get clients from the book as you write it, which is very much what I'm encouraging people to do.
Yeah, can you tell me a bit more about that, maybe, Karen?
Yeah, well,
without giving away all your secrets.
I have actually spent the last 3 or 4 weeks since I got back from skiing holiday 4 weeks ago, and I was, I know Steve and I were both, you know, planning courses for this year, and I'd started writing a course before going away, and actually I've really ramped it up, and it's coming out very, very soon. And I'm going to share some of the secrets that some of my clients have done. So one client did sponsorship. So she had other companies sponsor her book, which meant that they injected capital into the book that enabled her to write it, to fund it. And she also, it was win-win because they had their case studies in the book. She got in front of their audiences. So it was really a great example of doing a collaborative project. Crowdfunding is obviously another one that you could do. You could write a program and you could promote that program alongside writing it. And I did that for my 3rd book in 2014. And when I did it, it generated £16,000 worth of income before I'd even actually started writing the book, or as I started writing it. So there's things like that you can do. I'm speaking to a client later in the week who's going to talk about how she did that on a one-to-one basis as well. So it's really about getting really clear on your message and starting to talk about it. You could do a survey. There's all sorts of things you can do. I've got 17 things I think I've listed that you could do pre-launch or even post-launch to generate an income off the back of your book, which is, I think, you know, as much as we want to write a book to inspire people, ultimately we want it to recoup our investment and we want it to reach more people, which is about getting sales and also, you know, enhancing your business by writing it.
Yeah, no, thanks for that. And maybe at this point, a key thing to discuss, because even recently I recall having a conversation with somebody online over strategies for book writing. And I don't know how much you're finding this still, but the mindset that if you're going to write a book, it's going to have to be published by a traditional publisher. I mean, I don't know what the percentage is nowadays of self-publishing to traditional publishing, but certainly from my perspective, I would never look at anything other than the self-publishing route now.
Yeah, for somebody who wants to do it quickly, I would say the self-publishing or the partnership route is the way to go these days. And I've wrote a whole chapter on this in my last book, Becoming an Authority, which is incidentally available as an audiobook. And I did that last year, so people can find it online. If you search for Becoming an Authority, you'll find it. And I did a whole section about the changes in the publishing world. And yeah, more and more people are being self-published, but it's about self-publishing it in the right way that is, you know, professional, that looks good, that presents the author in the best possible light. Because if you're looking at writing a book to build your brand, you want it to reflect your brand, which I know yours obviously do, Steve. I know you've taken that professional approach with yours, as have I, and with all of our clients.
Yeah. Okay. So in terms of when getting people in this mindset of writing now to be ready whenever the normal or new normal, I don't know whether we're new normal now or not quite sure what phase we're in. So what are the stages you would recommend that people follow?
Well, in my new program that I'm just about to launch, it's a 6-week program covering 6 key phases, and I'll go through them because it's exactly the same phases in my book, Becoming an Authority, as well. It just goes deeper into them. The first thing is about starting with the end in mind. So being really clear on your vision for your book, your goal for your book, who it's for, and how you can leverage it as well. So that's starting with the end in mind. The second step is all about honing your subject, so you know what you know who it's for. So then it's like, what do they want to hear from you? So it's about doing your research, and there's 2 great self-funding examples in that section. Because when you do your research, you can connect with people you've worked with in the past, you could work with in the future. The third thing is all about finding your secret sauce, the thing that makes you different, the thing that makes you stand out from other people. So if you're writing a book and you think it's been done to death, so many people have written it, it's about how you can actually write something that's got a hook, something that's a little bit different. And then the fourth is all about structure. And that's about having a really clear plan for the book, what you're writing, which order. And I know you did the summer challenge a couple of years ago, Steve, and that was one of the things you found really useful, was the structure, the post-it note exercise that I talk about. And there are those 4 key steps of the things that you need to do first. And then the 5th one is writing it. And then the 6th one is all about bringing in stories, experts, case studies, that type of thing. So that's really the foundation that I believe is important to get it written. But the first 4 steps, I would say, if people take nothing from this interview, you have to do that. If you want to become an authority with your book, you have to do those first 4 things before you start writing. And the mistake I see time and time again is people who start writing without a plan, then they get stuck, overwhelmed, lose their confidence and never finish it. So that's really what I'm trying to do with my new program, is take people through the steps, without having to pay thousands of pounds to work with me. They can, it's going to be a relatively low cost program when it launches as a pilot, which means that people can get the best book out of their head and into the hands of people who need to read it.
Yeah, absolutely. And this challenge of getting the book out of people's heads, from your experience, Karen, what are the main things that stop people actually literally doing that?
They've got too much information, and that's what I find with many people, is they have too much information. They don't know where to start, what to talk about first. And I was running a Make It Happen day a couple of months ago, and one of the ladies who was on it said to me that she'd started writing, but it had no flow. So for me, part of the planning is all about the flow of the book. And when you know what's going to be in the book and what's not going to be in the book, it makes it easier to actually put that flow, to sort out all of the information. And also writing it in a way that is going to make sense to your reader as well. So I think the main thing is people have so much information, they just don't know what to do with it all. So for me, I love extracting it. It's almost like sort of strands of wool or something like that. When you've got like a ball of wool in your head and you don't know which is the red, the pink, the green. For me, it's about taking it out of your head and laying it down so you can see what you've got. And then it makes sense to you and also the book and the reader and what comes off the back of the book, like programs, one-to-one, etc.
Yeah, no, I think that's great advice. And I know also that you're a fan of not editing as you go along, aren't you, Karen?
Yeah, I'm not editing too much, though.
I put up my hand to falling victim of that in the past, because as you write, I'm the sort of person, because like you, I write a lot anyway. I like to see it looking nice and tidy and grammatically correct as I go along. And then I suddenly think, well, hang on a minute, I've just wasted 2 hours. I could have actually been writing loads more. What's your take on that, Karen?
I'm a recovering perfectionist. I like things to be neat and tidy as I go, but also I know that sometimes it just has to pour out of your head and go down on paper. If you're always editing chapter 1, you're never going to get to chapter 2. I'm not saying, if you see a typo, don't correct it, because I would, because that's just me and probably you as well. But I think if we edit too much and we try and get it right, we're never going to move to the next chapter, are we? Because we're always going to be stuck on that, getting that one perfect. And then I'm aiming. So I'm going to swear now, I'm aiming for a shitty first draft whenever I work with a client, and I do work with a lot of perfectionists as well, which is good, because I know what it's like to be there, because I'm one myself.
Well, I think if you're working mainly with business owners, as you do, Karen, the nature of what we do, we like to do it well, obviously.
Yeah.
So that that goes with the territory, if you like. But I certainly know, as I mentioned, to my cost, I spent I can't remember which book it was. It might be my second one, went through career change. I spent an inordinate amount of time editing and playing around with stuff, and then you get into this dreadful downward spiral where, as you say, you think, well, hang on a minute, I don't seem to be making any progress at all.
Yeah,
And
well,
it affects your motivation then, doesn't it?
yeah, well, I know, I think over the years of writing 6 of my own books, I know how I write at my best. So after I did the planning for becoming an authority, which I started, I think came up on Facebook the other day, that about a year ago I started it. I went away in the May for I went for 4 days, I went away, and I spent 2.5 of those days solidly writing. And just doing that and having the focus and having the plan meant that I wrote 22,500 words in those sort of probably 3 days I spent on it in total over that period. And it was just literally just sitting down and just channeling the information, and there was no editing then, nothing more than the cursory, oh, I've made it, I am a bad touch typist, so I might have gone back and changed a word, or if I saw a mistake, but I just literally just poured it out of my head. But I had the plan, so I knew exactly what I was writing, where I was writing it, and where things fitted. Things moved around when I edited it, absolutely, but at the time it was just getting those first 22,500 words out. And down onto paper.
Yeah, and the way you describe that, it's just a light bulb moment for me, Karen, because sometimes I tend to use voice dictation.
Yeah.
So I just literally are speaking it as I'm thinking it. What's your take on that?
Yeah, it's a great way to do it if you're a speaker rather than a writer. For me, I find, because I am a writer, I tend to have the information channeling between my head and my fingers without really thinking about it. But for people who are speakers, we had a lady on our writing retreat a couple of years ago, and it's in Spain, so it's nice weather normally. She used to sit by the pool in her bikini with her iPhone. It was a great way of writing her book, because that's how she dictated it. Yeah, so for her, she is a speaker rather than a writer. Although she's written a very good book, that was her way of getting it out of her head. The only downside is when you speak it, you need a piece of kit that's going to be accurate, and then it takes more editing later. So it doesn't work for me, but it works for some people. But I've been, when I went to the edge of the New Forest last year to write Becoming an Authority, I took myself out for really long walks every day, and I was inspired, and I was dictating just into the notes app on my iPhone. And it worked really well just to capture information in the moment. So it depends what works for you. You can dictate, you can, you could be interviewed. There's all sorts of ways around it if you don't want to sit behind a computer and go, right, I'm going to write.
Yeah, well, you see, I'm typewriter challenged. I think it's probably the best way to put it, because I do one finger typing. So for me, that's the worst bit of it.
Yeah.
I might have it up here on paper or whatever, but actually transposing it is quite challenging for me. But you just mentioned something else, Karen, which again triggered a thought about going for walks, and then this whole way of getting in the zone, or in flow, as people tend to talk about it for book writing. I would have thought in these current challenging times is going to be even more important than ever, because you can't disappear off to the New Forest and then camp down there and suddenly think, oh, I'm going to write a few days of stuff on my book. Equally, some people might have kids running around at home and all sorts of distractions.
Yeah.
So what thoughts or tips, advice might you have for people at the moment in order to help them get into flow? And are you of the school of thought that says write as much as possible in one go, or are you one that says do it in chunks? Or is it about just how you feel?
Everyone, it's knowing how you write at your best. So with clients, some clients, get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and they write. I write in chunks of time. Most of my clients write in chunks of time. Not everybody does. So for me, if you write, if you can write really good, really well for half a day a week, you should be able to get a book written in 6 months. So in the current times, if you've got a day a week, you should get your book written in 3 months, bearing in mind you might do a bit of planning and research. So from a timing point of view, but from a distraction point of view, it's about setting boundaries. It's about getting support from other people. If you have got kids running around, could you write first thing in the morning? Could you get up early and do a couple of hours before they get up in the morning? Could you write in the evening? Could you shut yourself away for 2 hours during the day and put a note on your door saying, mummy, daddy isn't to be disturbed, or something like that, and have arrangements if you've got other family members to help you, of course. So it's just really finding what works for you, and what works for other people as well. And I think it's knowing when you write at your best. I'm a morning or an evening. I'm not an afternoon person when it comes to writing, but I can be inspired really late at night. But I'm quite, I can wake up with an idea in the morning. But for me, it's about chunks of time. It's about boundaries. For clients, I encourage them to put time in their diary that's non-negotiable. So it's a bit like if you were working with a client, you wouldn't be available for anybody else. So it's just putting yourself as your own client and making sure that, a Monday, a Tuesday, a Wednesday is the time you write. And how long you write is entirely up to you. It's better to spend 4 hours of good quality time rather than 8 hours of poor quality time.
Yeah.
So if you say, okay, on a Tuesday, it's my writing day, and you could spend 9 till 5 writing rubbish, or you could spend 9 to 1 being really focused, and it doesn't really matter as long as you get the outcome you want.
Yeah.
And for me, that outcome is also about planning the day before. I was talking to a client about this recently, saying that, if you plan the day before, you then can rock up to your computer and go, oh, okay, so this is my plan for today, rather than spend an hour going, where was I? What am I doing? How am I doing it? So it all comes down to planning. So much of it comes down to planning.
Yeah. And probably even more so at the moment, I would think.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's being creative because, we're in uncertain times. We have so many distractions, as you said right at the very beginning. We have news, we have social media. It's so easy to get sucked into some of the negativity. So it's about using this time as using the book as a positive distraction, as you said. So we are focusing on something other than things that might pull us down.
And I'm sure you would be encouraging people to switch off all their social media and anything else.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting when you watch, younger people nowadays when they're writing and doing stuff. I mean, I just can't get my head around it. They've got music going on, they've got this going on, and they're doing text and God knows what else. Yeah. And yet they're still, personally, when I write, as much as I love music, I write in silence.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone's different. I've got some clients who they can't at the moment like to go out to coffee shops to write. I need silence, but I also I like to take myself outside. If I'm editing, I might print something out, take it outside into the garden. So it's just finding what everybody's different when it comes to writing. But distractions are a no-no. If you want focused time, it's well documented. There's well documented research out there that says if you're distracted, it's going to take you a long time to get back to the task that you planned on doing in the first place. Yeah. So you could lose hours, couldn't you, really? If you think you had half a day a week and then you spent the first 30 minutes doing some, you go onto the internet to do some research, you get distracted because, something pops up, bright, shiny object over here, you're never going to get anything done.
Absolutely. But there is definitely something about writing outdoors, isn't there?
Yeah, I do a lot of editing outside. So I might print off a blog article, I might print off a newsletter, so my online program, I've been doing the editing in the garden because it's so nice at the moment. Sun's out, it's about probably 19, 20 degrees today, maybe in the south coast of the UK. So it's actually nice to be able to go out and just have that different space. So space is important when it comes to writing as well, because if you are at your workspace, there's also that kind of workspace mentality. If you've got the luxury of having 2 desks or something like that, you might want to shift space to write. So it's all about what works.
Absolutely, but there is definitely an element of maybe this is all part of the planning and prep of uncluttering or decluttering before you actually start the process.
Yeah, absolutely, definitely.
Yeah, and I don't think a lot, maybe a lot of people don't pay enough attention to that. So I know you just wrote an interesting guest blog for another magazine, was it?
It was for a business coach. So one of the things I encourage people to do is take advantage of every single opportunity you can. So I've been asked to do a couple of guest blogs in the last couple of weeks. So this was for Ian Dixon, who's a business coach. And I've done some blogging for him. I'm the expert in his Facebook group, one of the experts in his Facebook group as well. So yeah, I responded to that request and just literally sat down and went, okay, so what's important right now?
Yeah, and anything from that blog that you feel is particularly pertinent to share, Karen, that maybe we haven't covered already?
I suppose the only other thing that's important is the fact that writing a book is about the goal for your business. So it is about the credibility building. It is about attracting new clients, getting your name known, becoming an authority, etc. That's all important. But I think one of the things that I love about when I see clients write a book are all the unexpected benefits that come off the back of it. The fact that you suddenly realise, oh, I know a lot of stuff, or you suddenly get all of your ducks in a row and you realise your message. With many clients, we work on their, as part of the planning process, they might have a signature system. Some know it already. So I worked with Sarah Harvey, who I know you know, Steve, and she already had a signature system. So her book, when she wrote Savvy Conversations, followed her signature system, which was great because she had that content already. But she delved so much deeper in the book as she wrote it, and she did more research. So it's kind of cemented, it's given deeper foundations to her signature system. And for those who don't have one, they start to develop their process. And then that can easily become a program, that can easily become, a workshop, or, how they work one-to-one with people. So it's worth looking at, writing a book is about getting all your ducks in a row, I think is how I put it. I've got the blog here, actually. It's about knowing what makes you different and being able to get that out there. And writing a book just gets you to rethink, who am I writing it for? Who's my ideal client? What are they struggling with? Should I do a survey? How can I connect with people? And just get their flow, and actually then they could create all sorts of things off the back of the content. And that's what we need right now. We need to be able to react to the situation. Potentially, the word that I'm hearing a lot, I'm not sure I like the word pivot, is one I'm hearing a lot at the moment. So we need to actually change our focus on the way we do things, potentially.
Yeah, I think it's about being adaptable more than anything, isn't it?
Yeah,
absolutely. But with the best will in the world, most people like you and I and business owners are not going to make a fortune out of writing their books.
No.
But as you well know, Karen, there is this massive hidden benefit of not just the kudos, but the potential to win business off the back of your book. And it's something I must admit that I overlooked considerably, and still do, I would suggest, to a large extent. I mean, one of the nicest surprises to me is when somebody out of the blue, who I don't know from Adam, sends me a message on LinkedIn or an email, and they say, oh, I've just been reading your whatever book.
Yeah.
Absolutely loved it. And I'd love you to coach me to make a career change or develop a portfolio career or whatever it is. And then you think, I knew I was doing this for a reason.
Yeah, and that's what I encourage all of my clients to do. And that's what, this online program is bringing all of those case studies together. I've had clients who have done TEDx, who have got, making 5 figures from speaking engagements, who are getting corporate clients, one-to-one clients. I've got one client who now delivers a workshop, and I think she's got a membership program, and people are paying £100 a month for the membership program. And I think she's got 30 or 40 subscribers to that. I've had clients on Women's Hour, maybe not so much now, but Flybee's editors top pick review. I can't remember what they call it now. New York Post, literally so many different ways they've managed to reach more people. But there's nothing nicer than having that person who said, I've read your book and I really enjoyed it, and how can you help me further? There is something nice when you can touch people on that individual basis. But I think something really great when you can really reach people on a bigger scale as well. And that's what it's all about. It's not just about the book, is just the byproduct of writing it. Everything that comes off the back of it is the cherry on top of the cake, which makes it all worthwhile.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, unless you've got anything else to cover, Karen, I think that's a very nice way to round things off.
No, I think that's it from me, Steve. Obviously, if anyone wants to find out more about me, go to Libertas.com. You can download the Get Started workbook. If you're on my mailing list, you'll find out about the first wave of launch for this new 6-week program that I'm launching very soon. So very
Yes, well,
excited.
I wish you all the best of luck with that,
Thank
and
you.
I'll eventually get round to doing mine. But no, thanks. Been great interviewing you, Karen, and you know, it's great to see the amazing progress you've made over the years. And as I say, it's all about making a difference to the lives of others, and so that they can do what they've aspired to for years themselves. So
definitely.
thanks very much, and been great interviewing you.
Thank you.